Okay, I'll call the order of the Sparks City Council meeting of April the 9th, 2018 with a roll call, please.
Mayor Martini, absent. Council members Abbott.
Here.
Lawson, absent. Smith,
Here.
Bybee. Here. Deere.
Here.
Adams,
Here.
and City Manager Driscoll.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Okay, 3.1, our invocation speaker today is Pastor Barb West, the Sparks Church of the Nazarene. Come on up, Barb. Everybody please stand.
Thank you so much, Ron.
Welcome.
Would you join with me in prayer, please? Our Heavenly Father, we are so thankful that we can get together today and do your business. And Lord, first of all, we would ask you to put your hand upon Mayor Gino Martini and help him to heal well. Lord, we thank you for this fine council and all of the men and women who represent us in our great city called Sparks, Nevada. And so as they do the business at hand, we pray that you would give them wisdom and give them the knowledge of everything they need to do for our benefit. We pray protection over our city and our schools. We thank you for our first responders, our police, and our firefighters, as well as our EMT people. And we are just thankful that we live in a place called the United States of America, and we ask you to bless it and us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Barb. If you remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Mr. Adams, would you lead us in the pledge?
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in pledging allegiance to the flag of the greatest nation on earth. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Did you say Abbott or Adams?
No, I said Adams.
I asked him the same question. I was like, no. And then you started. I was like, what?
Okay, if you'll indulge us for 1 second, we had a member of the Spark City team a while ago pass away this weekend, and Steve's going to read a little bit about it, and then we'll take a moment of silence if we can do that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. This is regarding John Roy Brook. On Saturday, March 24th, Mr. Brook died peacefully with his family by his side. He began his public service as a city engineer for Sparks. He then became the public works director for the city and finally served as a city manager from 1967 to 1973. Among his accomplishments as city manager, his push for funding to establish the Parks and Recs Department for the city was his proudest. Always progressive, one of his final acts as city manager was to hire Stacy Pyro as the first director of this new department. And then what was significant then was because she was the first and highest ranking woman official in local government. There will be a celebration of life for both he and his wife, who has also passed, will be held Saturday, April 14th, 12:30 p.m. at the Coney Island Bar. Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
So if you'll please bow your heads and just, we'll have a moment of silence for his passing. Okay, thank you. Move on with the agenda. Okay, this is public comment time. Anybody in the audience wishing to speak at this time, please fill out a card. And if you haven't filled one out and you want to speak, then we'll let you speak and fill it out afterwards. So our first speaker today is Casey Connolly. Yes, come on down. Oh, you want to wait till 9.1 to talk? Okay, we can do that. Okay, James O'Brien, that's 9.5. Where's James? Do you want to wait or do you want to talk now?
I think I'll wait.
Okay. Looks like Kelly Goatley Seals, same thing, 9.1. You want to wait? And Anonymous, come on down. Welcome, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
operating this graciously showed me that there's a zoom in and a zoom out. So hopefully all the documents are compliant now with the public records statute. So I'll pick up where I left off. This mic, I have to talk into the mic for it to pick up. The statute where we, survivors of domestic violence, get remedy is NRS 205.511, and it's significant to note that the players who are discriminating against us survivors in the courts can be sued without being prosecuted. This is Reno City Manager Newby and her attorney husband who works for McDonald Carano. They both have practiced in the 8th Judicial District, where Reno City Manager Newby signed a contract to illegally conceal the domestic violence database, and that contains the names of our husbands and the fathers of our children who have committed domestic violence. We could not get the courts to have hearings regarding this matter, and so we had to investigate the chief judge, Ritchie, and the court administrator, Steve Grierson, to find out, to get an order to get them disqualified. And your attorney can tell you the difference between a disqualified judge and a recused judge. And again, we remind you that Ritchie is the person, the judge, who stated that we survivors of domestic violence are submitting pornography to the court when we submit pictures of the bruises to us and our children. This is the memo that came out to try to counter Chief Judge Togliatti's order that all of the judges are disqualified. And what this memo, all the district judges are practicing now, is they're lumping us survivors, see if I can get this in there, lumping all of us survivors with criminals. And by lumping us survivors with criminals and using a case law, Jordan v. State of Nevada, they can try to keep us out of the courts. And I'm going to quickly say kudos to the chief of police for Sparks, who to the state has published charges against Chuck Weller, and Chuck Weller has been investigated, and he is now up for a hearing for criminal activity. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is John McCann.
I can come up twice, or I can come up later.
Well, you want to, are you accepting the, oh, okay, we can just wait. You have to fill one of these out for that, so that's okay. Okay, anybody else in the audience wishing to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council. Move on to 5.1, approval of the agenda. Anybody want to pull anything? If not, looking for a motion. Mr. Abbott.
Move to approve.
And we have a motion, Ms. Bybee.
Second that?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, the minutes. 6.1, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the minutes of the regular Sparks City Council meeting of March 26, 2018. Any additions or subtractions? Mr. Dare?
I move to approve the minutes as they are.
Okay, and we have a motion, Mr. Abbott.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, 7.1. Washoe County Bike Week proclamation. Come on down. And if you'll give us your name for... Welcome.
Thank you. John McCann, for the record.
Okay. Ms. Bybee.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to read a proclamation from the City of Sparks. Whereas promoting alternative forms of transportation, such as bicycling, in order to improve health and well-being, also reduces pollution, traffic congestion, and America's dependence on fossil fuels. And whereas creating bicycle-friendly communities has been demonstrated to improve quality of life, foster community connections, improve traffic safety, and stimulate economic growth. And whereas bicycle infrastructure in the Truckee Meadows offers great potential to positively impact our recreation and tourism industry, as well as to make the region more attractive to businesses and residents relocating to the Truckee Meadows who enjoy healthy lifestyles and the outdoors. And whereas many Nevadans will experience the joys of bicycling during May through educational and safety programs, community events, or their regular bicycle rides. And whereas the education of our entire community as to the proper and safe operation of motor vehicles and bicycles is important to ensure safety and respect of all Nevada's road users. And whereas the month of May has been declared National Bike Month since 1956, now therefore I, on behalf of Gino R. Martini, Mayor of the City of Sparks, do hereby proclaim May 2018 as National Bike Month and the week of May 13th through the 19th, 2018 as Washoe County Bike Week in and for Washoe County, encouraging all citizens to enjoy the benefits of bicycling, recognize the importance of bicycle safety, and be more aware of cyclists on our streets. Signed, Gino R. Martini, this 22nd day of March.
Thank you, Councilwoman Bybee. That sounds much longer when it's read out loud than when I just type it up for people. And thank you to the council as a whole for having me and for reading that proclamation. And thanks to Francine Burge for helping out with Truckee Meadows Bicycle Alliance. That is who helped put that proclamation together, and we are hosting Bike Week again this year. I think we've been doing it since 2005 or so. I've only been the chair for about 2 years now, or a year and a half we're going on, and we've got a number of events coming up this year. Every day of the week there's at least one, a couple of group rides, a couple of free breakfasts, a couple of bike repair clinics, tons of great things going on, ending with a Bike Week after party on Saturday the 19th down at Statewide Lighting in Midtown Reno. It's going to be a family-friendly event. We're going to have a mini cyclocross track for kids to ride on with little bikes and ride through pool noodles and around zigzags and food trucks and live music, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And I brought a couple of posters and save the date cards that I can let you guys take a look at and share around. And if you have any interest in having more of these to put around your offices or hang up wherever you go, you can talk to Francine and she can track down more for you. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, John.
I have a question.
We're going to get a picture. Oh, sure.
I do have a question for, so how would the general public get the information of your schedule and how they can participate?
Oh, great question. So you can check out bikewashoe.org. That is our website. So we are the Truckee Meadows Bicycle Alliance, but so people don't have to type that out every time. Everything online for us is just about Bike Washoe. So it's bikewashoe@gmail.com if you'd like to send a question. If you look us up on Facebook, we've got all of our events on there. So it's facebook.com/bikewashoe. And then on Instagram and Twitter, we are Bike Washoe also.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
So why don't we, it's a lot of trouble, we're going to get a picture taken, moving the chairs. Let's just all go down there with him, okay?
Why isn't it refreshed yet?
Okay. What are you doing down there?
Hello, my name's Christopher Dare. I'm here on behalf of ALS today.
Okay, we have a proclamation for you also.
Oh, I
Here,
heard
have it.
All right. Whereas it is the pleasure of the Sparks City Council to recognize and honor those organizations that seek to protect and enhance the quality of life for the less fortunate. And whereas, you guys give me all the hard words, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS, sometimes called Lou Gehrig's disease, is a rapidly progressive, invariably fatal neurological disease that attacks the nerve cells, neurons, responsible for controlling voluntarily muscles. It does not affect the person's ability to see, smell, taste, hear, or recognize touch. And whereas as many as 20,000 people in the United States have ALS, and an estimated 6,000 people in the United States are diagnosed with the disease each year. Approximately 250 persons living in Nevada are currently diagnosed with ALS. And whereas every 90 minutes, someone in the United States is diagnosed and passes away from ALS. And whereas military veterans are twice as likely to develop ALS as those that haven't served in the military. And whereas in the advanced stages, ALS cares can cost up to $200,000 per year, depleting the financial resources of patients and their relatives. And whereas the suffering of patients and the anguish of their caregivers must be supported and alleviated. Now therefore, on behalf of Gino R. Martini, Mayor of the City of Sparks, Nevada, do hereby proclaim May 2018 as ALS Awareness Month and urge all citizens within Sparks to join us in honoring and supporting the ALS Association Nevada chapter, a worthwhile and dedicated organization.
I'm honored to be able to serve on the state board for ALS, and in my life, I've walked with many people who have died from this, and typically someone who ends up being diagnosed with this disease, they really don't last more than 3 years typically. It's something that it's all speeds up very quickly for their life. Some outlive it, and some have some ways financially, if they have, to be able to push farther. Have you heard of Mr. Hawkins, Stephen Hawkins? He was one that had that. He found ways to continue to live. There is a walk coming up on May 5th at our marina, and so we're pretty excited to invite everybody down there. If you want to be a part of that, you can go to web.alsa.org if you want to just find out more information about it. But you can come down and walk even if you don't have the funds to give at this time. It is a fundraiser, but just show your support by coming down as well. So we'd love to see you there, and everyone's invited. Thank you.
Thanks for the work you do on that group. This is their biggest fundraiser, isn't it?
This is for local. We statewide, and in Las Vegas, they actually have quite a few fundraisers that are bigger, but they've been a little more, I won't say organized, but just larger down there than we have been up here. For the last year, we've worked diligently to see this grow and grow, and this is the largest one they do up in this area, for sure. And
thank you, Christopher.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to get a picture so I could give to ALS if you don't
we'll go
mind.
down and take
If we
a
could do that too.
Yeah.
I just want to see you get up again. This is just our exercise for the day. Is that the owner?
Okay. How about a presentation from Vision Zero? Welcome.
How about it? Good afternoon.
I've heard about this stuff.
I believe I'm here because you asked me to come and talk to Sparks City Council as well. Good afternoon. My name is Erin Breen. I'm actually with the Transportation Research Center at UNLV, and I am a pedestrian safety advocate for Clark County, and now branching into Washoe County as well. So we began working on this project last spring at a one-day charrette that we gave about Washoe County pedestrian safety and launching a Vision Zero program. Seated with me today is Rebecca Capular from RTC Washoe, and Rebecca has been spearheading the efforts as we have been gaining momentum. So I came to present this program to you today. I hope that you'll not only be interested, but ask questions. And a year from now, I hope that we're back here getting our very own proclamation, because Vision Zero has been such a success for Sparks. So we have started this project already, and The committee members, I made it go away. Oh, there we go. The committee's members have chosen 4 locations. So the presentation today is kind of a background about Vision Zero, but I brought some maps about your particular city. So Vision Zero was born in Sweden 20 years ago, and to address their overall crashes. And their thought process was, if you build your roads for the most vulnerable road user, which is the pedestrian, that you will save all road users. So in fact, you'll see on a slide what their fatality rates are versus in the United States, including ours. So Vision Zero really looks at communities and neighborhoods and asks the question, what gives a community life? And if you think it's motor vehicles, they may help drive commerce, but they don't give your community a life. In fact, cars are robbing all of your constituents of their quality of life. And so I spent a little time today, briefly, driving around Sparks, and it's such a lovely city. And to see some of the improvements that you're making will fit right in with Vision Zero. So I couldn't be more excited to be here. So Vision Zero basically looks at the human being when they construct a road. And they say that humans, being humans, that we're always going to make mistakes. But traditionally, we build our roads expecting every person who uses them, no matter your mode of transportation, to be perfect and to follow every rule. Human beings don't work that way. So what Vision Zero's base is that in every situation, the person may fail, but the road should not. And we don't often look at how we build our roads as a contributing factor in our overall fatalities, no matter, again, what kind of transportation you use. So Vision Zero says that 1 traffic death is too many. And if it's your loved one who is that one person, it is too many. And in the state of Nevada, we have a zero fatality goal. And a lot of people think that that's an unachievable goal, and it's not very smart. To which I say to people, so how many people is it okay to die at your house this year? And if the answer at your house is 0, for the people that you love, the answer is 0, then how could we as a state have any goal but 0 in mind when we're looking at who is it okay to lose their life? Because it seems like transportation fatalities we accept as part of our convenience of especially motor vehicles. They're all predictable and they're all preventable. So Vision Zero is just a different way of looking at that. So the traditional thinking says that we focus on accidents. Vision Zero says we focus on fatalities and serious injuries. The Strategic Highway Safety Plan, Zero Fatalities, also says that. And that is what the state of Nevada has been focusing on, is reducing our fatal and serious crashes. You know, truthfully, what's costing you the most money are those critical A-type incapacitating injuries. Traditional thinking bases road construction on perfect human behavior, and Vision Zero says, no, we need to integrate the frailty of human beings in our design. Individual responsibility versus shared responsibility with how we build our roads, and that completely different thinking pretty much than traditional road construction anywhere in the United States. The industry, traditional thinking is that industry has to be forced to make improvements, and Vision Zero says that by the results that industry can be stimulated when Vision Zero is successful in the areas that you start in, then you want to do more and more. It's kind of like adding light rail, same thing. The big thing with traditional thinking is that saving lives is expensive, because building roads correctly and redoing what you already have is in fact expensive, and I'm not going to try to tell you that it's not. But Vision Zero says that overall, saving lives is cheap. So it's just a different mindset of how we look at how we build our roads. So this is Washoe County for 2016. We don't have 2017 finalized yet. So 49% of your transportation fatalities in Washoe County were motor vehicle occupants, which means that vulnerable road users made up 51% of your vehicle fatalities. I guarantee you that 51% of your road users are not vulnerable road users. It's more 90% plus are motor vehicle occupants. So that vulnerable road user is very overrepresented when we look at fatalities. And for every fatality, they say that there are 12 of those life-altering injuries. So obviously, it's a big deal. So this is your city. And this is overall pedestrian crashes. The red dots are fatalities, and I'm going to break them out a little further for you here. That kind of amber-looking dots are those A, or incapacitating injuries. The bright yellow are B. So a B injury is your typical broken leg, broken arm. And I think the most startled I ever was when a trauma surgeon said to me that a broken femur for the average adult keeps you out of work for 12 months.
Wow.
To me, that's a critical injury, because who could survive that? So it's not listed as a critical injury, but to someone's life, that's a critical injury. And then the O injury means that there was an injury reported, but that it was not visible. So looking at your streets, more specifically, here are where your fatalities happened. And this is 5 years worth of data. But I was surprised. I don't know why I thought that I wasn't going to find so many pedestrian crashes, injuries, and fatalities in your city. That's a pretty significant number. And pay attention to the streets. So you have Victoria Avenue, you have Prater, and Bering Boulevard, and of course McCarran. So McCarran is kind of no secret because of the way that it's constructed. But here's your A injuries. And so now you see that there's significantly more. So these are the kind of things that Vision Zero's looking at. And the current Vision Zero team that has been operating since October, we have a data committee meeting tomorrow, and I'm going to let Rebecca talk a little bit about the maps and that we've been working on, that once they're blessed tomorrow by the committee, we'll be happy to share with you. That is looking at all different, it's looking at lighting, it's looking at age, it's looking at alcohol involvement. So last year, the state of Nevada actually hit 100 pedestrian fatalities. It breaks my heart to tell you that 78 of those happened in Clark County. Over half of those fatalities, when it's all said and done, are going to involve some kind of impairment. So it plays a significant role, and it will be in it is in the data that Vision Zero is looking at. So the Vision Zero team right now picked 4 locations, Sparks being one of them. So I'm gonna let Rebecca share, and I might as well do it right now and not come back to it. So I'm gonna let her share a little bit about those maps.
Hi, thank you. For the record, Rebecca Capular. And I do want to make note that Amber Sosa is here, and she's on our data committee and has been coming to our meetings. So thank you for being a participant with Vision Zero. I've been working our team really hard, and I'm really proud to say that we've done a lot of amazing work. And what we're planning on doing is using data to tell a story. So we're looking at lighting, as Aaron mentioned, ages. We're also looking at what the pedestrian was doing during the crash, and what the driver was doing during the crash, and impairment, whether it was the pedestrian or the driver or both. And so we're using that information to say, you know, is it really happening at low light settings, or are the crashes happening during the daylight? One of our sections had 58% of the crashes occurring during the day, where everybody assumes that you're not being safe and seen at night. Our data is also showing us, for the region as a whole, that although the majority of the crashes are happening during the daytime, the severe injuries that Aaron was mentioning and the fatalities do happen more in the evening and night or low light settings. So like she mentioned, we're meeting tomorrow, and then we'll have our committee meeting on Thursday, and we're putting together a mission statement and a vision statement, and we're hopefully, if I can get my way, we'll have our committee come down into different 4 quadrants to each tackle one of these areas. And, you know, we'd love to see if law enforcement's there. And I'm sorry, Julie's also on our committee. We have the PIOs from all the jurisdictions there, because we feel very strongly that once we look at this and figure out what direction we're going to move, that it's important for us to have the same message. So as a regional partnership. We roughly have 15 different agencies, from law enforcement to REMSA to agency folks. There's just a lot in health district. So we welcome many. Erin, in fact, met with a family that their son was a fatality near UNR, and she invited them to be part of our committee. So we're trying to be really holistic and take a step-by-step approach. So once we have more information and data, we'd love to come back and share that with you as well and talk about ways we can do some improvements in Sparks.
Well, and I'm going to hit you up for something big before I finish today, but well, I'll save it when we get to that slide. So this is fatalities per 100,000 population. And as you can see, Washoe County is pretty close to Clark County when we look at, this is pedestrian fatalities. And then, of course, we go all the way down here to Stockholm. So they were at 10% like we are in Nevada now when they started 20 years ago. And that's the difference. 90% of their crashes have been mitigated. It's hard to argue with the tenets of Vision Zero. So there are currently 23 cities that have signed on Vision Zero throughout the United States. Most notably has been New York City. They just finished, the city itself just finished their third complete year of Vision Zero and posted the lowest per capita fatalities that they've ever had since they started recording transportation-related fatalities. There's also a very active Vision Zero in San Francisco, and that's where the Vision Zero network, who created this map, are based out of, is San Francisco. So it is a movement that is spreading across the United States, as you can see from this map, and I just think it would be lovely if Nevada was in on the early stages rather than the end stages, because we know that what they are doing in America is helping just like it did in other cities. So this is something from New York City itself, and it's looking at their overall fatalities, 2009 to 2013. 2013 was their last year without Vision Zero. And then what happened to their overall fatalities in 2016, which were even lower in 2017. And then on the other side, I don't know if I say on the right-hand side, if that's right. It is, okay. Wasn't sure if it was transposed or not. Are there pedestrian fatalities in New York, the actual numbers from prior to Vision Zero to 2016. So you can see that they have had a reduction, and that the overall reduction in transportation fatalities has been as great as the pedestrian reduction. So this is kind of counterintuitive, because we're talking on the left-hand side about a drop in fatality and a drop in injuries, and then you have up arrows on the other side, so it's kind of a weird dichotomy. But the biggest thing about Vision Zero is the increase in livability. And when more people feel comfortable on the street, the result is a drop in crime. People don't think of pedestrian safety as being important to crime, but it really is. Increased physical activity, obviously, goes with increased mobility. Revitalizes areas that are dormant or have been sliding. And of course, the result of that is increased revenue. So on the right is something that San Diego's Vision Zero project put out, and that their overall population growth that they saw at 33%, but in the neighborhoods where they were putting Vision Zero concepts in place, a much larger growth for those communities. And it makes sense that that's where people would want to live. And again, especially pedestrian safety is a quality of life issue. We don't allow our children to walk or bike to school anymore. The result of that is just has so many ills. We're raising children that don't know how to interact in traffic, and then we give them keys to a car and expect them to know how to get around. But the biggest issue is that kids, they miss out on decision-making and friendship building and how to get themselves out of a problem and not rely on their parents to do it. I mean, there's so many quality of life things that kids today don't get to experience. So these are the basic tenets of Vision Zero, that people are more important than cars, that safety is more important than expediency, and that saving lives is cheap. This is from the city of Seattle, and I include it mainly because this is the biggest part of Vision Zero, and that is reducing speed limits, which is the thing I told you I was going to hit you up for something before I left. So as I was driving through your community today and saw your construction on Prater, that would be such an awesome location to try lowering the speed limit to 25 miles an hour, where people don't die from crashes. So as you can see by this graphic, at 20 miles an hour, 9 out of 10 pedestrians survive. The elderly and small children are who do not survive a 20-mile crash. Children because they have no body mass to absorb the crash force. The elderly because of fragility. It's not that they die at the crash, they die because they break a hip or they break a femur and they simply quit moving. And so they languish and they die. But when you look at just bumping it to 30 miles an hour, now half of the population does not survive. And looking at Washoe County crashes is where I came to really understand this to be true. Because coming from my city where everybody goes so much faster, I thought, oh, sure, you would survive a 30-mile crash. Looking at your data, the number of people who die on streets that are marked at 25 and 30 to me was amazing. But at 40 miles an hour, now only 1 out of 10 pedestrians survive. Speed plays a tremendous factor in surviving a pedestrian crash. So this is actually a sign from downtown Manhattan. Their signage actually says 20 is plenty. And it's having great success. So again, we're not going to stop the crash because humans are always going to do human things. But if the car that strikes them does not strike them at such a high rate of speed, then the person survives the crash. So Prater Way would also be a terrific location for a pedestrian safety zone, which we do have on the books in the state of Nevada now, where it's treated like a work zone where you have to sign it at the beginning and the end, sign it so that anybody who came in contact with the road knew that it was a pedestrian safety zone. But you can apply the same theory as a work zone where fines are subject to doubling. It just helps get people's attention and says, hey, this is where you should look out for pedestrians. So once we give you some more data on what's happening in your city, maybe you'll find a place where you would like to look at establishing a pedestrian safety zone. It's not meant to be permanent, it's meant to be temporary. This is just a sign of people who are fed up. A lot of people who walk out of necessity. They are our most vulnerable road users. So again, I think I've covered that, but we're already focusing on serious injuries and fatalities. Integrating that failing human in the design is paramount to success. And to look at the fact that we can change the way we do business and how people use our roads, that would in fact reduce your fatalities, bring vitality to neighborhoods, increased revenue, because cars don't buy goods, people do. And when people are traveling past a business and they don't have the opportunity to even see that it's there, let alone what they're offering, how can that business be successful? So inspiring community support and will is really what we're trying to do by being here today. So it's kind of after the fact asking you to commit to looking at Vision Zero, but we may come back to you again to ask for your actual support of this program once all the vision and the mission is complete and we have the maps to actually give you, to ask for you to really actively be looking at places that you could establish Vision Zero programming. And I have to tell you that this sign, this drive like your kids live here, as we were driving around your community today, what was the street? Probasco. Someone actually has this, it's not where I took this sign from, but obviously someone on that street has an issue with how fast cars go because this sign, this very sign, that looks just like this one anyway, was in their front yard. So I know that people in your community are talking about slowing cars down and their quality of life. So I'm hoping that we can be successful with bringing Vision Zero to the city of Sparks as well. So I'm always available, both now and any other time, to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions, comments? Ms. Spivey?
Thank you for your presentation on this program. I will have to tell you, the number one complaint I get, and probably all of us, is speeding. And when someone calls well, it is the neighbors, and it's some of our Vista, which is the Indianapolis 500, people think. But I get complaints, and I tell residents when they call or email me to complain about speeding, that I get it from all across the city, not just in my ward, that people are driving too fast everywhere. I mean, and you do worry about just the safety if you're in a car, let alone if you're on a bike or pedestrians. And so I know it's a very real problem in our community. Obviously, you have more data on actual fatalities and accidents, but just as someone driving around and realizing how fast people are driving and what effect that has in our community. So I'm guessing now, explain a little bit on the program. Is it kind of a combination of a community awareness, educational campaign that you go out with PSAs and with public information to share these messages to kind of change behavior, as well as integrating some things like changing speed limits, doing the zones, signage? It's kind of a combination of these things. And I love the idea of your task force, because I would like to see what the task force comes up with. And obviously, if it comes back to us, we can decide as the city of Sparks what works for us, especially financially and our staff time to do that. But is that basically the crux of the program?
It is, yes.
Okay.
And so Prater Way is one of the streets that pops on your data. So since it's torn up and since you're redoing it, and as I drove through it today, I wouldn't have been comfortable going any faster than 30. So engineers, of course, would have to look at that, because you can't just throw up a new speed sign. It has to be, if people are comfortable going faster, they're going to go faster. But I still would think that you might want to look at, as part of your improvements, looking at a lower speed limit and see what it does for your business and your crime and your reduction in crashes, overall crashes. Of course, pedestrians are who will survive the most, but if it affects your overall crashes, then it's a positive. And then maybe that's how you gain support for, let's try this on one of your other streets that needs the help. And you have lovely lighting that's gone in on Prater Way that will actually light those enhanced sidewalks, because traditional street lighting is not meant to light people, it's meant to light the road for cars. And so it absolutely would be combined with messaging to pedestrians, bicyclists, and drivers about watching out for each other, about wearing reflective clothing, light clothing, all the things that contribute. And I don't know if alcohol's an issue yet in your. It's on that map, though. They just came out this morning, and I haven't really gotten to study them yet. So, but again, maybe there's businesses that will help work with the task force on heightened awareness and help for those people. A lot of people think with pedestrians, they weren't driving, but a drunk pedestrian, they can't judge how fast a car is coming, obviously, to save their life, and that, so it becomes a big issue.
Mr. Dare.
So I also think that one of our biggest concerns are complaints that we get a lot of speeding. The second one, though, is how do I get home quicker? Because people want to speed and get home because they don't like traffic. So my question is, because a lot of it has to do with regulating and making sure that people are not speeding. How did this, in these areas where you are implementing this, it seems like it's going to require more police, going to require some things. Is that what you saw? What did you see? Because there's a concern of, we obviously have infrastructure needs, and we're trying to do all these things to try to make sure we can slow everyone down. It doesn't do any good to say go slower, which means we need to give more people tickets, which
Well, and again, you can't just put up a new speed limit. If the road is designed for a faster speed, that's the speed people are going to go. So then it becomes a speed trap. So you can't do that either, which is why Vision Zero is expensive, because it does require changing some roads. McCarran Boulevard, you could never put up a new speed on that street without changing the street itself. So it's a combination of things. We're just starting to look at where the problems are, not really the fact that I actually jumped to saying, hey, you have this construction, so you should try it here, totally out of realm of what I should have done. It just seemed so natural when I was driving down that street today. But a committee will start looking at solutions once, with our overall committee meeting on Thursday will be the first time that most people will see these maps. And so the maps that I'm showing you here are actually from the charrette that we did in Washoe that are in my presentation. So the maps that and someone from Sparks so Amber from Air Quality, she was the GIS person too?
No, she was Health District.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
so 4 different GIS people helped with these maps too, in order for us to get them done. So I think it's someone from your health district, maybe?
And if I can add too, to answer your question, I know that RTC, for example, we have a complete streets master plan. We have a bike ped master plan where we have projects identified to put in new infrastructure or increase the width of sidewalks in some locations, add shared use paths. When you try to build a street for multiple road users, you give them options, and it kind of look at Sparks where the Pyramid McCarran interchange just got changed. That has a lot of multimodal components to it, and that helps enhance and make it safer for all the users. So we're really going to be looking at what the data is telling us, where we need to narrow down, and look at all the different types of resources, not just engineering, but human behavior as well, and see how we can get the message out and do some mitigation and education as well.
So if you were to choose to do something on Prater Way, we would try to get the businesses along the street involved, everybody pushing the message. And, it is a human education thing, because you're right that the mindset is, I want to get home faster. And when you get complaints from people about speeding, when they're not complaining to you, chances are they're part of the problem. It's kind of like we watch parents drop their kids off at school. As soon as they drop them off, their brains leave with their kids and they hit the gas and off they go. So recognizing yourself as part of the problem is one of our biggest challenges. And I always say to people, no matter what, when media asks me, so how could we change this? My answer always, overall, no matter what it is you got to give yourself enough time to get where you're going and be realistic about how long it takes. And none of us are that person. So we are all part of the problem, myself included, And I know really well what the problems are, and I'm not always the one who follows the rule either. So it's a process, and it's not fast, but not addressing it at all is just going to continue to cost us more and more lives. And then, of course, ultimately, we'd love to get people out of their cars. And the way to get more people walking and biking and not using their cars is for them to feel safe doing it. And so it's kind of a chicken or the egg thing, How do you do it if they don't feel safe? So, and I know you have bike share coming and all kinds of things. So it's really good timing to be looking at Vision Zero as all this new stuff's happening in your city. Not to mention your growth. So my big thing with getting involved in Washoe County at all was I kept saying, learn from our mistakes and don't make your roads, because you have an opportunity to not do that as your population explodes, to not allow streets to be built at 7 lanes and 45 miles an hour through where people live. Leave it for the freeway. So it's an education process.
Thank you.
Mr. Abbott.
Yeah, I got 2 questions. Was this adopted down in Vegas yet, or is it kind of in the works, or?
So I'm from Las Vegas.
Okay.
So what happened was I reached out to Naoma Jordan and to Deborah March, who's the mayor of Henderson, and to Carolyn Goodman, the mayor of Las Vegas, and asked all of them the same thing. Could we try this in your downtown footprint? That's how we began. So Henderson City Council was my first presentation, and both Henderson and City of Las Vegas, their downtown areas have been undergoing mass renovation. So Henderson's just finishing. Las Vegas is probably a month from being finished. So since that's what I asked for, we have not gotten nearly as far in either of those cities as we've gotten in Reno. It's because of Rebecca. Rebecca's doing an awesome job. It met with much more, yes, let's do it here. And And we were able to bring a lot of committees that were already functioning together as one committee. And everybody had the goal of let's get something done, so.
And law
So
enforcement.
yes, we're trying to do it in Las Vegas, but you guys are beating us to the punch with actually getting moving.
Okay, good. Listen, Aaron and Rebecca, thanks for the report.
Thanks
And-
for letting
and
me
I-
take so much time.
It's okay, and I know we have problems in the area. Speeding is our number one. Ms. Bybee said that. The other bad combination is drivers speeding, not paying attention, and then the guy walking down the street looking at his phone, stepping out right in front of the car. I mean, it's awareness by everybody.
You're right.
And, you know, if you get a speeding ticket in Sparks, you're lucky. I mean, you're unlucky because we don't have the police officers to do it. But I like your zero signs for the zones. So maybe we can do something. Come back and see us. Thank
We
you.
will. And thank you very much for your time. I
Thank
know
you.
it was significant.
Okay, now 7.4, presentation, Arts and Culture Advisory Committee update. Francine.
Good afternoon.
Is this another hat that you wear?
I'm wearing my Arts Advocate button,
I see it.
but I'm sure we all should be arts advocates. For the record, Francine Burge with Parks and Rec Special Event Supervisor. And I'm here to update you all on the work of the Arts and Culture Advisory Committee. The strategic plan was approved by City Council just 6 months ago, and we have really hit the ground running, and I wanted to let you know some of the things that we've got going. So we're planning our Art Town activities. This year for Art Town, we will be having several performances and activities and classes. Very exciting. We've got a website, cityofsparks.us/Art-Town, and that will have the listing of everything going on in Sparks that we're funding and sponsoring. Some of the highlights are we will have a free Tintabulations performance. That's the Bell Choir. They'll be performing in the amphitheater on July 1st. 39 North Market is doing a Art is Food series for their marketplace. And they are working also with Arts for All Nevada. The City of Sparks is sponsoring a still life class. So during Marketplace, you can go into the museum and they'll be teaching different techniques for drawing bowls of fruit. Let's see, we will have Discover the Arts classes. Those are designed for kids 6 to 12, and those will be on Saturday mornings for the little kids. And the last Friday event, which will be July 27th, will have a Julia Child Chautauqua performance along with the movie Fried Green Tomatoes, all for free. It'll be lots of fun. We have, moving on to education classes, we have 4 new classes. We have musical theater for adults and musical theater for kids. We have beginning acting, and then we also have a kind of exciting thing. It's a Disney summer camp that also includes a free performance that will be part of Art Town as well, and that is The Lion King. We have a mobile art project that we're working on with Draculich Foundation for Arts Healing. And what that is it's a program, it's an art project where we're taking decommissioned military uniforms and they make paper out of them. That paper is then made into origami cranes, and the cranes will be put into a temporary art project and it'll be installed in the new Galaxy Theater downtown. So when they open, hopefully for July 4th weekend, we're going to have an origami workshop down there and show people how to make the cranes and discuss why this art is important, how art heals through the military. We are working closely with our partner Sierra Arts on a project called Galleries at Work, where we are bringing art into the downtown businesses that are moving in with Jay Witt. We're paying Sierra Arts to put in art in those businesses, and when that happens, the last Friday campaign and events will include art walks on a monthly basis, so people will come down, they'll get a map of all the artists throughout downtown and be able to walk around and see art and frequent those businesses and have a lovely experience. So we are setting up some MOUs and some contracts between CR Arts and Jay-Witt and their tenants, and we're working very closely with them. We have a communications plan that we're working hard on. Thanks to the Toromart Committee, they awarded us $20,000, and that was to help us get the word out about our arts classes, our programs, our events. So that's very exciting. One of the things that we heard loud and clear from our public input meetings was that a lot of people didn't even know that we had art classes or art events. So it's great to have that money so that we can get out there and talk to our constituents. So lastly, I know that people are very excited about the NEA grant, and I did find out last week that we are being awarded with NEA funding. I do not have an amount yet, but I'm meeting with my partners next week, and we're going to put together our final budget and priorities that will be submitted, and then by that, hopefully later on in May, we'll have a final amount for that. So if you don't know what the NEA grant was for, it's for an arts overlay project using that $150,000 for the public art so that we can use that for all the public input and community engagement. Whenever you do public art, one of the most important things that you need to do is get the public involved and engaged. So we will be spending that money getting our constituents involved with how we pick the art and how that's going to be done. It's going to be done by the public. And so that project will be starting in August, and hopefully the commissioning of the art will happen sometime in 2019. We're not in a huge rush given all the construction downtown, and since we want a lot of public input, it's really important that we have the people that are moving into some of these downtown residencies, that we're able to wait till they move in and get them involved. So in conclusion, some of the things that lead up to this is we talk about creative placemaking a lot, and I think this is an excellent time between now and when we start this NEA project is to bring in a creative placemaking expert to train staff and council on creative placemaking ideas, best practices. We did bring in, actually it was the Nevada State Arts Council brought in Philippa Hughes, who did a charrette in March of last year, and I would love to bring her back to focus on the city staff and help us figure out how we can incorporate art, not only in our capital improvement projects, but in our arts projects and in all of our facilities. So I've been working with Tracy and through the PMI process, talking to Steve about how we can do that. And now I would love to open it up for questions.
Thank you, Francine. Any questions or comments? Ms. Bybee?
I just want to congratulate you on the NEA grant. I know that was a lot of work done very quickly, and appreciate your work on that, and that you've made, ironically, just, a week ago, I'm like, what's going on with the arts? All of a sudden, I just realized we hadn't talked about it in a while, so it was timing that I didn't realize you were coming back to us with so much that has been done. So I appreciate that. Look forward to things actually happening. Really glad to see us involved more in Art Town, because Sparks wasn't. We have the last couple of years, taken baby steps to get some of Art Town, but I think, thank you for adding more to the Art Town as we bring more people into downtown, especially Victorian Square, where we want, people to come and enjoy our new vibrant downtown, which would include art to also make it beautiful. So thank you.
Absolutely.
And thank you to the committee too.
Mr. Dare?
I also want to say that Galleries Walk sounds like a pretty neat idea. That's especially in the midst, and I think one of the big questions in my mind is when do we get to put some things down there that make, as people come downtown, they can come take pictures with. But I think it makes sense what you said about construction down there at this point. And we are going to have a lot of people living there. But I also, with that said, I'd like to say that's one of my hopes, is that we have some more added features down there like that. And so I look forward to seeing them come. So thank you.
Me too.
Thank you, Francine. Thanks
Thank
for
you
the
very
report.
much.
Good news. Okay, we'll move on to number 8, consent items. Anybody want to pull one? Looking for a motion? Mr. Abbott?
I'll move to approve consent items 8.1 through 8.5.
Okay, and Mr. Dare?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, we'll move on to general business, and we'll do something a little bit different. I have two cards for people that want to speak on 9.1, so we'll have the public comment open for that, and then we'll get into the presentation. Kelly Goatley Seals.
Mr. Mayor? Might I suggest that staff do their presentation first, so all the information's available?
Sure, if you want to
And
do
then
that.
take public discussion
Okay, no problem.
before we take any action?
Okay, we can do that.
Thank you.
Okay. 9.1, Tracy. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. Tracy Dominguez, Parks and Recreation Director.
Do you want me to read the title of this before you start, or?
Yes, please.
Okay. Consideration, discussion, and possible direction to the city manager to initiate amendments to Title 12 of the Sparks Municipal Code regarding principal park rules in Sparks to prohibit smoking and vaping in Sparks parks. Okay, Tracy.
Thank you. Right. I'm before you today seeking direction to the city manager to consider adding some ordinance regarding smoke and vape-free parks and Sparks. A little background, I'd like to state that in January of 2017, the Sparks Parks and Recreation Commission attended a concurrent meeting with respective commissions for Washoe County and the city of Reno. This occurs approximately every 2 years. And during this meeting, the Washoe County Health District presented the concept of creating smoke-free parks in the Truckee Meadows as a regional project, not per jurisdiction. As a result, each commission gave direction to move forward with exploring the possibility of creating smoke-free parks. At that point, a subcommittee with a member from each jurisdiction was formed and has been working on this topic for the past year. So we had a representative from each commission on this working group, as well as staff attending those meetings. As a result, on January 24th, 2018, the Sparks Parks and Rec Commission discussed this item at their regular meeting and voted to recommend to City Council to create an ordinance that would prohibit smoking and vaping within all City of Sparks parks. The items that they approved included Sparks parks to be smoke and vape-free versus the inclusion of chew tobacco that was eliminated. It's just smoke and vape. Smoke and vape-free to be enforced in the entire park, including parking lots, versus zones that could be created around playgrounds. And the third item was smoke and vape-free to be enforced by ordinance versus policy. So this working group, again, we met monthly for a year, and they believe that exposure to smoke or aerosol from cigarettes or electronic cigarettes is unhealthy and detrimental to the health of others. Cigarette waste is commonly discarded on the ground, requiring additional maintenance expenses and diminishing the beauty of our parks and recreation facilities. And as leaders, parents, community members, and officials, we are role models for youth and can have a positive effect on the lifestyle choices they make. The primary enforcement of the smoke vape-free park policy or ordinance will be through new signage in parks and social pressure to not smoke in our parks. We do not anticipate law enforcement actively patrolling parks looking for ordinance-related violations. We know that is unrealistic, and our expectations don't include that. We will notify residents, if passed, through current communication channels that include social media, press releases, and our appropriate signage. We haven't, if you recall, I was before you last year regarding inflatables, snow inflatables in our parks. And that is, those signs haven't gone up yet. We knew this was on the horizon, so depending on the results of this ordinance, whether it passes or not, we will start getting our new signs out this year. We were we don't want to put up a bunch of new signs and then realize, oh, we've got one more thing to add. So we're hoping this would be it, and then we'll initiate our new signage in the park system. There are many cities throughout the nation that have enacted an ordinance that prohibits smoking and vaping within a city park, and I did attach that reference for you, all the cities. And so you know, tomorrow, Washoe County will be presented with this similar information for their vote, and City of Reno will be hearing a presentation on Wednesday, April 11th. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions or comments? Ms. Bybee?
Tracy, my question is on the ordinance side of it. If we passed an ordinance prohibiting this, it doesn't say anywhere what the penalty would be. And then is the only enforcement signs that you're hoping people and pressure of other people will help enforce? But is there a penalty, and what penalty would people pay, and how do we do the enforcement? I know we're not going to send police out there, but is it citizens report? I mean, I'm really confused on what that piece looks like.
I have not determined that yet, to be honest, because although this was a regional approach, the regional approach actually addresses signage. So for example, a lot of people don't realize they're not in a Sparks Park when they're at Lazy Five, for example. So if we got consistent signage across the board, that might help the message. However, each entity is going to have to determine their own ordinance and their own verbiage. So that will not be a regional approach. But I have not put that together yet, and that is something I would be working with. If it's approved to move forward, I would be working very closely with Chief Allen on that.
Okay, so to determine what the penalty would be.
Yeah, I don't anticipate one at this time. I'm kind of following the pattern of what we did for the inflatables and some of the other new rules that we did pass as ordinance last year. There weren't any fines for that.
So possibly citation, but not fines at this time? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Derrick?
My question has to do with how far does this reach? I know you guys also oversee like Victorian Square and things like that. So I just wanted to make sure we're defining, is this just mainly parks, or is this going to those jurisdictions as well when we're having events? I just wanted, that's one question I didn't know the answer to.
This is being proposed for our city parks. Now, I realize that Victorian Square is considered a park. I would make that an exception to this rule due to its size and obviously the amount of visitors, and the complexion of Victorian Square has changed so much, and you've got retail and residents and all of that. So Victorian would be an exception to the rule.
Thank you.
Mr. Abbott?
Yeah, so obviously being on Parks and Rec has been a long time coming, but we would be the first county in the state of Nevada if this passes, correct?
We would be the first city.
First city, yeah.
Yes,
Sorry.
the closest city to us is Incline Village, and they do enforce it at their ski resort, the beaches, the golf course, their parks, facilities. That's the closest one to us, but nobody in Nevada as of today.
Okay, for me, I agree that we shouldn't have any smoking or vaping in the parks, but to make an ordinance that we say we won't enforce, and then I catch you smoking in a park and I ask you to stop and you give me my notice to stay out of your business, why would we want to pass an ordinance that we're not going to enforce? Why would we even have that? I agree that we should have signs everywhere, no smoking or if it's smoke-free area. But as far as making an ordinance, I question that.
Okay. It's certainly your prerogative on how you choose to vote today, but it's very similar to, we have the same, honestly, challenges with alcohol in our parks. It is an ordinance. If there is an issue that comes up, the signage helps police. It helps to back them up when the ordinance number is stated on the signage in place. We have a little more leverage, but we also recognize that it's not a priority call. We realize that. So it's.
Alcohol use is a different breed of cat, if you ask me, because if somebody's drinking, you can tell they've been drinking, and how they're gonna get home from the park. They're gonna drive, so there's issues there. I just, they pass an ordinance that we're not gonna enforce, and somebody gets into an altercation at a park for whatever reason, then they're gonna say, why aren't you enforcing your ordinances? And I think that's just a problem for us.
Okay.
Okay?
I think I'd just like to add, this is an opportunity as well, if chosen to move forward, to keep marijuana out of our parks as well.
Well, they
and their
can't
products.
smoke outside anyway. They're not
Well,
supposed to.
they don't know that.
They know that if they're.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
that's
I
different.
see it in our parks quite a bit.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, what is the pleasure of the council? What do you want to do?
Public comment?
Huh?
Public comment?
Yeah, I'm just gonna, is there anything else that you want to talk about? Nothing? Okay, then I will open up the public comment on 9.1. Kelly? And I keep saying this, Goatley Seals, come on down finally. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. My name is Kelly Goatley Seals for the record. I represent Washoe County Health District, and here today with me I have representatives from the Nevada Cancer Coalition, the Reno Sparks Tribal Health Center, and I, on behalf of us all, we would like to speak to the health aspect of this ordinance or potential ordinance. And when I may say smoke-free, that does refer in my language to smoke and vape-free. So we really support the fact that this is a representative regional effort throughout Truckee Meadows. Our region is not the first to create. I would like Ms. Dominguez to comment if she would like, but the city of Henderson has also implemented a smoke-free ordinance last year. So there is some precedent here in the state of Nevada, and we could look at both city of Henderson as well as the extensive list for some lessons learned on some of the questions and concerns related to enforcement, as well as the questions sometimes that people have about government overreach. But on behalf of health, I would like to point out three main reasons why the health community sees this as important. First, that smoke-free locations eliminate exposure to secondhand smoke, which the Surgeon General has said is unsafe at any level. Even in an outdoor environment, tobacco smoke can trigger immediate symptoms, including breathing difficulties, eye irritation, headache, nausea, and asthma attacks. The second reason is smoke-free locations send a message to youth that smoking and vaping are something the community is protecting them from. The CDC recommends creating smoke-free environments as a strategy to prevent youth from smoking. When children do not see people smoking, it creates a non-smoking norm, which encourages children not to use tobacco. And third, smoke-free locations encourage quitting smoking, and they create supportive environments for those that are trying to quit. So it has very strong history and research related to helping our community stay safe and healthy. Here in Washoe County, the data shows that 85% of our adult population does not smoke, and over 92% do not vape. Smoke and vape-free parks can help protect the public from harmful secondhand smoke exposure while allowing park users to enjoy the healthy living practices and clean air that parks provide. Smoke-free parks are an important effort in supporting healthy community and sustainable living. So on behalf of myself and my partners that are here today, thank you for considering this, and I will entertain any questions if that is allowed during public comment.
Normally, we don't ask any questions during public comment. Would anybody else like to say anything? We've got a few seconds left. Good? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Casey Connolly, come on down. Welcome, Casey.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Casey Connolly for the record. and I'm a graduating senior from the University of Nevada, Reno, and I'm just here to speak in favor of smoke-free parks as a concerned community member. So my freshman year, our student government, as well as our administration at the university, decided to enact a new rule on our campus, and that would provide a safer, cleaner, and happier environment all around on our campus. And this new rule was that UNR would be a smoke-free campus starting the following fall. So I personally was in support of this because I don't enjoy walking to class and smelling cigarette smoke or being subjected to the dangers of secondhand smoke. So after 4 years of this rule being enacted, I can tell the immense difference that it's made in our campus community. Our walkways are no longer littered with cigarette butts, which I appreciate because we have a beautiful campus and I want to keep it that way. And I no longer have to worry about smelling like smoke when I go into class because I don't walk behind people that are smoking anymore. I've seen the benefits a rule like this has had on my campus, and I would love to see the benefits it would have in my community. Our parks are a place that support physical and mental health, and those that are there to enjoy the clean air and work on their health should not be subjected to the dangers of secondhand smoke. Passing the smoke-free parks law would help to keep Sparks Parks clean and safe, and for them to remain a place where people can practice a healthy lifestyle. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience wishing to speak at this time? Come on down. And if you'll fill out a card after you're done speaking. Welcome.
Hey everyone, my name is Jeanette Orton. I work for Truckee Meadows Parks Foundation. It's a local private 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to inspiring awareness, appreciation, and stewardship of...
Could you speak a little bit closer to the microphone?
Yep, sorry. I work for Truckee Meadows Parks Foundation. It's a local private 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to inspiring awareness, appreciation, and stewardship of Reno, Sparks, and Washoe County parks. In November of 2017, the Parks Foundation conducted the Smoking in Parks survey, the full report of which can be found at our website, tmparksfoundation.org, under the Advocacy tab, but I'll just kind of do a summary. In total, 984 people participated in the survey. Duplicate submissions were removed, as were submissions from individuals living outside of Nevada. This reduced the number of legitimate submissions to 963. The survey indicated that a strong majority, 76% of individuals, would like some regulation governing smoking in parks, smoking and vaping, whether it be a total ban or the creation of designated smoking areas. The final component of the survey was an optional comments section in which 443 participants responded. People against the ban expressed concerns that any regulation of smoking in parks would be unenforceable and would be an infringement on individual rights. However, the majority of respondents, and that's 76%, were pro-ban, and their most common concerns were that tobacco products should not be used around children, and cigarette butts are a fire hazard, let alone contribute to the litter problem in parks and open spaces. In conclusion, I'd like to state that Truckee Meadows Parks Foundation, myself included, supports smoke-free parks. Thank you.
Thank you. And then if you'll fill out a card for me over there, the city clerk. Okay, anybody else in the audience wish to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council for action. Mr. Dare.
Yes, I'll end up making a motion, but I also want to say my first question has to do with enforcement, but I also get the understanding of having this in place actually can help us enforce some things in the future. It does give our police something to walk in on. I do think vaping, sometimes we have no idea what they're vaping. And then we have kids. These parks are for having kids around, and we want that. It's for other people as well, but we want to make sure it's safe for the kids. So with that said, I'll give us a try and see how it goes. I move to direct the city manager to initiate amendments to Title 12 of the Sparks Municipal Code regarding principal park rules in Sparks to prohibit smoking and vaping in Sparks parks.
Okay, we have a motion. Ms. Bybee?
I'll second, but I have comments.
Okay.
So I will second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Adams?
Thank you, sir. You know, I've heard a lot of excellent reasons to not allow smoking in our parks. One of the things I didn't hear about was the litter, and I just heard that, as well as with a letter from the Keep Truckee Meadows Beautiful in support of this. In regards to the enforceability of this, if you're going to make this an ordinance, folks, we make it illegal to smoke in a public building. We make it illegal to throw burning objects from vehicles. I don't mind prosecuting this as a misdemeanor. So if it's the enforceability that you're concerned about, and the fact that you're not going to associate any type of criminal penalties to this, that it may somehow undermine the effectiveness or the importance of this type of an ordinance, I don't mind going forward at all and prosecuting it if I get a citation. So I don't know if you want to include that in the ordinance, or Mr. City Manager, if you contemplated making this a misdemeanor, punishable just like any other misdemeanor.
Baby, I'm sorry.
I don't want to, you know, if you have some plans here, I just don't want to throw those out, or I don't want to undermine those plans, but let's enforce it like we do any other misdemeanor.
So getting back to the enforcement, on the, so we have a lot of ordinances, as Attorney Adams just mentioned. The one on alcohol is an ordinance, but how do we enforce that, and is there a penalty associated with that? Or I understand when the police show up on scene and there's an issue and they violated after park hours and they've been drinking and there's several ordinances, police presence and something else happening can enforce it. So what do we do about the alcohol? If someone calls it in or they happen to see it, we can cite at that time, but what is the prosecution or penalties for the alcohol ordinance?
I'm not sure. I don't know if Chief Allen can answer.
I'll jump in.
Steve.
I'll be happy to jump in on that. For misdemeanor criminal activity, that goes to the Sparks Municipal Court. The Sparks Municipal Court, under normal misdemeanor, has a range on fines from $0 to $1,000 and from 0 days in jail to 6 months in jail. That is the blanket that is used on the ordinances that we currently have in the books for everything from traffic through other activities. And so if we're going to have an ordinance, as Mr. Adams talked about, having change is what you're trying to do. You're not going to have change unless there is some action that's being asked to do that. So the idea of having it be criminal in nature, have a fine associated with it, have the ability to have to do something to satisfy the adjudication at the court, like going and picking up cigarette butts in the park as community service. I certainly, if I'm contemplating this on your behalf, I'm going to keep that in mind, knowing knowing that the judge at the end of the day would have the ultimate say. So there isn't going to be something specific. The judge may, because they decide what the bail schedule on our ordinances look like, they may decide that there is a base fee that they would typically charge, and that is used during bail hearings. This is not a nonviolent type of crime that would be happening. So in today's world with court services, typically you would be released unless you're habitual. You would typically be released on your own recognizances with no bail, and then you would talk to a judge. So my suggestion would, if you assign this to me, I will be taking that in and looking at every other ordinance that we have. If it is contemplated that it be criminal in nature, which is what we're suggesting, as other things that we have are, alcohol in parks, burning material, littering, then we let the judges do their work on your behalf as a separate branch of government, and we go forward with it. So the main concern here is that if it's the pleasure of the council to have a rule that is to not have smoking materials, including vaping, in your parks, similar to alcohol, similar to litter, similar to animals on leash, those kinds of things that you already have to make your parks safe. You give me that direction, then I will go work with what makes sense and what is enforceable if enforcement is necessary. Because just because we might talk to somebody a few times doesn't mean that somebody's going to get excited about something and they deserve a chance to go in front of a judge. So I would appreciate that you, if you're going to give me direction, just to give me direction to go work on it, and then we'll work with the best solution, knowing what the policy of this board is on other rules similar to that.
And that answers my question. That makes me much more comfortable knowing that it also has some teeth to it. So people realize, I mean, we're not going to go out and put somebody in handcuffs because they're smoking in the park, or send our police out and sit in the park waiting for that. So I'm very comfortable with city manager addressing that piece of it, and I fully support, for safety reasons, for the cleanliness of our parks, for our kids, for secondhand smoke, that for all those reasons, I think it's a good ordinance. And I will have to say, I was surprised at how many cities across the country. I kept scrolling through the list of how many are smoke-free, because initially I'm like, but it's outside, you know, and people are out in the open air. But I think because it's a gathering place where people bring children, there's senior citizens, people walking their pets, and they're outside trying to enjoy a healthy environment, I think I definitely would support this. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? During the discussion period, I'd like to call the chief down. Would you come on down for a second, Chief Allen? Just a couple questions.
Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem Brian Allen, Chief of Police, for the record.
Brian, I know that our officers are going to drive by a park and see somebody smoking a cigarette or vaping, and he's going to screech his tires and pull into the park and hang a criminal misdemeanor charge on him. But if I call you as a citizen because Tracy keeps smoking and won't stop, by the time you get there, she's not smoking anymore, what can you do about it?
You said a lot, and if you make it a misdemeanor crime where the police has an enforcement activity, it's just like you're camping along the Truckee River. It's just like any other crime. If we drive by the park and we do see someone smoking in the park, that gives us reasonable suspicion to go check with that person. It gives us probable cause to make contact, ID them, identify them, and quite possibly, with the discretion that's given to an officer, give them everything from a verbal warning to take them to jail. So the variety of enforcement action falls within any misdemeanor crime that you would make it approachable or enforceable if you go that route. To answer your question, it would be a misdemeanor crime that if it did not occur in our presence, then we would require a citizen to sign that complaint. And then once again, it's at our discretion on whether they receive a citation, or if they do not meet the qualifying qualifications for a citation, then they would be physically booked into the Washoe County Jail for violating a misdemeanor crime in the city of Sparks. So, for example, if someone has failed to appear history, they have another warrant, failure to comply, any of those things where they can't identify themselves that don't qualify for a citation in lieu of arrest, then a physical arrest would take place at the completion of the citizen's complaint. It would actually be the citizen placing the subject under arrest, and we would just be facilitating that arrest process.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Any other questions? Mr. Adams?
I did. Chief, when your officers stop someone like this, reasonable suspicion and improbable cause, is there a chance that that person may have outstanding warrants, or they may have some more serious contraband on them that you may discover because of this misdemeanor stop?
Absolutely. It's open at that point.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Thank you, Chief. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? And I will say this, that I probably won't support this because I just don't like the idea of an ordinance. I do like the idea of signage saying smoke-free zones, whatever we can put on there. The ordinance part bothers me, so. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Okay, it passes 3-1. Thanks, Tracy.
Thank you.
Okay, move on to 9.2. Consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the fourth amended interlocal agreement regarding the purchase of water rights pursuant to the Truckee River Water Quality Settlement Agreement, A-2311, between the City of Sparks, the City of Reno, and Washoe County, which considers payment from the Water Quality Settlement Agreement Fund, managed by Washoe County, to the Truckee Carson Irrigation District of any final program costs and disbursement of remaining funds to the City of Reno, City of Sparks, and Washoe County, with a potential positive impact of approximately $14,300 to the Sparks Sewer Fund. Andy, welcome.
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem Smith, members of council. For the record, Andy Hummel, Utility Manager for the City of Sparks. I apologize for the long title, but there's a rumor that whoever gets the longest one for the year gets an award.
An award?
So I'm in it.
Okay.
So this item before you is the fourth amendment to an agreement between Sparks Reno and Washoe regarding purchase of water rights as required by the 1996 Water Quality Settlement Agreement. The Water Quality Settlement Agreement required the three agencies to purchase $12 million worth of water rights for in-stream flow to Pyramid Lake to settle lawsuits that were brought in regards to expansion of our treatment plant at that time. Funds for these purchases were generated through sewer user and connection fees collected by each agency. Over the 20 years the program lasted until the purchases were complete, interest was generated on the funds collected. Interest was not required to be spent towards water right purchases. As of January of this year, there's approximately $725,000 remaining of those interest funds in that account. If this money was to be dispersed, each agency would receive an equal amount, or approximately $240,000. Rather than disperse these funds, the Local Government Oversight Committee, which oversees the Water Quality Settlement Agreement, would like to spend a large portion of these interest funds to satisfy an outstanding obligation with the Truckee Carson Irrigation District. Water rights purchased under this program were largely in the TCID, or Truckee Carson Irrigation District system, namely from Fernley and Fallon agricultural properties. As these are ditch rights, the owner of the rights is automatically a shareholder in the ditch system. As a shareholder, we pay an operation and maintenance fee of approximately $20,000 annually based on our water rights holdings. Understanding that once this program was complete, the agencies would prefer to not be a shareholder in the ditch system. An agreement was reached in 2002 with TCID, which provided that a one-time payment could be made to satisfy all future payments, meaning we never pay an annual payment again. That fee is currently $682,000 and change. Our current annual payment, as I mentioned, is $20,500. It's been calculated it will take approximately 24 years for our annual payments to collectively exceed that current one-time buyout cost. The recommendations within this Fourth Amendment are to satisfy the one-time buyout of $682,231, pay any final program costs, such as if we need to do an audit or anything like that, and then disperse any remaining funds. We anticipate final disbursement to the three agencies could be on the order of about $14,000 each. So not a huge amount, but we're not paying to satisfy it. Washoe County heard and approved this amendment March 27th, and Reno will be hearing it this Wednesday, April 11th. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, any questions or comments? Mr. Abbott.
Real quick, we paid $20,000 a year on this, right?
Yeah, we've paid that since roughly 2001, when our first purchase of one of those rights happened. The per water right cost has went up approximately 2.5–3% a year. So we're anticipating that growth will increase as we go on.
So it's a good savings year after year, end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. It comes out of our Tumworth operations budget now, so we'd see that go away.
Mr. Dare.
I want to say that I think the savings is good, but I think even better, the liability is worth us escaping from. And so if we have it there and it's not coming out, I mean, we obviously have some finances to do this. I think it would make sense for us to do. So I appreciate you bringing that and getting us out of that way, and then we don't have to worry about the future of what might or might not happen and what we might or might not have to pay.
Yeah,
Because it's not just $20,000, if I'm accurate, that we might pay a year. It's that if something else happens, then it could turn into whatever else it could And so it doesn't make any sense in my brain for us to continue to have a risk that we don't have to have.
Exactly.
Okay, any other questions? Ms. Bybee?
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
A long one.
I didn't do it.
Second ward.
I move to approve the Fourth Amended Interlocal Agreement regarding the purchase of water rights pursuant to the Truckee River Quality Settlement Agreement between the City of Sparks, the City of Reno, and Washoe County, which considers payment from the Water Quality Settlement Agreement Fund managed by Washoe County to the Truckee Carson Irrigation District of any final program costs and disbursement of remaining funds to the City of Reno, City of Sparks, and Washoe County with a potential positive impact of approximately $14,300 to the sewer fund.
Okay, we have a motion, and Mr. Abbott?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Thanks, Andy. Thank you. Okay, 9.3, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of a construction contract AC 5462 to Sprint Turf LLC for the Golden Eagle Regional Park Synthetic Turf Replacement Fields 7 and 8, rebid number 17/18-014 PWP WA 2018-048 in the amount of $1,150,547. Brian?
I don't know whether me or Andy won that one, but good afternoon, Mayor Pro Temp and City Council members. For the record, my name's Brian Kaysen, Capital Projects Manager for the City of Sparks. Again, I'm here today to present the Golden Eagle Regional Park Synthetic Turf Replacement Project. This is for Fields 7 and 8. Ultimately, these two fields are aging and in need of replacement. The anticipated construction dates are June 11th through July 31st. And there were 5 bids submitted ranging from $1.15 million to about $1.51 million, with Sprint Turf being the low bidder. Staff is recommending that Sprint Turf be awarded the project. With that being the end of my presentation, I'll answer any questions you might have.
Questions or comments? Mr. Dare?
I just have a question. How long will the actual park be shut down and not usable?
Well, the June 11th through July 31st is the anticipated time frame of replacement. Prior to that, well, I mean, there will be some, they'll have to order their materials, they'll have all they'll have it all ready to go prior to the June 11th date.
Gotcha.
And then when that June 11th date occurs, we do have one more multi-use field that will be able to still provide some access for the citizens.
Ms. Bybee?
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
And I'll make a motion second, and then and then I do have one comment. I move to approve the construction contract to Spin Turf LLC for the Golden Eagle Regional Park Synthetic Turf Replacement, Field 7 and 8, in the amount of $1,150,547.
Okay, we have a motion. Mr. Abbott?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I had one more comment.
Ms. Bybee?
Thank you for finally, we're going to get moving on this. And my understanding, just those 2 fields will be closed. All
Yes.
the other softball fields, the rest of the complex will still be open.
Yes, just
and
Fields
operating.
7 and 8.
Just
And,
Field
yeah.
7 and 8. And I really appreciate that it looks like that it came in a little bit lower, and then we got so many bids to do that.
Yes,
So I
no,
was hopeful when we started this whole process, because there's more companies that are doing the field turf than when the fields went in, the competition would drive some costs down, so I was glad to see that.
Yeah.
Thank you for your work and for the staff's work on that.
Thank you. Yes, we did have very good competition, and we were all very happy with that to see that we got some good prices.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, 9.4. Consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the purchase of dewatering polymer from Polydyne Incorporated for the Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility at a delivered unit price of $2.0144 per pound and an estimated annual cost of $355,190 to the City of Sparks. Michael?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Welcome.
Members of the council, Michael Drinkwater, Treatment Plant Manager. You have before you a request to purchase polymer from Polydyne Incorporated. This particular purchase would utilize a joinder provision to allow us to join onto a contract between Polydyne and the Los Angeles County Sanitation District. They recently did a competitive process, identified some polymers. We happen to know that this particular product works for us. It was a fantastic price. The vendor has offered to honor that price with us. Our current supplier has been trying to exit our market for business reasons not related to us. And so this is an opportunity for us to save a lot of effort because Los Angeles County went through the open competitive process. We can utilize that work and buy the polymer and get back to work.
Stuff. Any questions or comments? Okay, looking for a motion. Mr. Dare.
I move to approve the purchase of dewatering polymer from Polydyne Incorporated for the Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility at a delivered unit price of $2.0144 per pound and an estimated annual cost of $355,190 to the city of Sparks.
Okay, we have a motion. Looking for a second. Mr. Abbott.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Thank you, Michael. Okay, 9.5, consideration and possible directions of the city attorney's office to petition the appropriate court for injunctive relief and/or to abate the nuisance on the property commonly referred to as 555 Dermody Way, Sparks, Nevada. The estimated cost of the abatement is approximately $13,000 for 6 months of abatement and is dependent on the eventual order of the district court.
Thank you. Cheryl Lighting on behalf of the City Attorney's
Cheryl.
Office. The property, as outlined in the staff report, is located at 555 Dermody. It is abandoned and the buildings are unsecured. Illegal dumping is occurring as well as ongoing graffiti activities. Additionally, and most concerning, in the last month, 4 fires have occurred on the property, with the 4th fire occurring this morning. Due to the illegal dumping, the unsecured land and buildings, and now the fires, a dangerous condition exists. The city has noticed the owner numerous times, as required by Sparks Municipal Code, that a nuisance exists and it must be abated or the city may take action. The owner has taken some remediation action in January of 2018. However, the owner did not take sufficient action to secure the perimeter to prevent access to the property and has not taken any actions as requested in the city's latest notices in January and March of 2018. Due to the owner's inaction, city personnel have been placed in danger when they respond to the fires and building code violations. And the surrounding properties are placed in danger due to the fires and the degraded condition of the property. Based on the above, we are asking for the City Council to authorize the City Attorney's Office to seek injunctive and declaratory relief to abate the nuisance at 555 Dermody. That's my presentation, and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions or comments from the council? Okay, I'm going to open up the public comment period. And I have one card. James O'Brien, come on down. Welcome, sir. And you have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for hearing me. I manage a property.
Say your name and...
Well, my name is James O'Brien. Our address is 970 Ice House Avenue. I managed the property for about 30 years now. And over the years, we've seen that property go downhill. Every year, worse and worse, to the point of, our 4 fires that we've had behind us. We've put fences up around our building, and the owner of our building has very expensive valuables inside of our building. We're located in the old Harrah's Automobile Collection, and she asked me to come down and just voice our concern as to what's going on back there, because it's kind of mayhem. There's people are racing cars inside the buildings, motorcycles, graffiti. I've been chased out of the area with a knife before. It's really a bad place to be any time of the day. So I'm here just to express our concerns about the property also.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
That's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else in the audience wishing to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council. Questions, comments, motion? Mr. Dare.
I'll make a motion. I move to direct the City Attorney's Office to petition the appropriate court for the injunctive and declaratory relief to abate the nuisance at 555 Dermody Way in Sparks, Nevada.
Okay, looking for a second. Don't we want to, shouldn't we put something in there that at your discretion, so?
I believe you're, with the way the motion was read by Mr. Dare, that leaves it,
Wide
gives
open.
us some room on the discretion and allows the district court also to have some discretion on
Okay.
structuring the abatement.
Okay, as long as it works. Looking for a second, Ms. Bybee.
I'll second the motion as clarified.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Get out of the way. Passes unanimously. Thanks, Joe. Okay. We'll move on to public hearing and action items unrelated to planning and zoning. 10.1, public hearing, consideration and possible action on a request from the Sparks Redevelopment Agency for an order AB 146 to vacate portions of public right-of-way on the westerly side of 9th Street and on the easterly side of 10th Street adjacent to 955 C Street, which is the C Street Garage. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, John Erickson, City Engineer for the record. Just as a background on this particular project, on December 11th, 2017, the Sparks Redevelopment Agency and Sparks City Council approved a deposition and development agreement with SWD Properties. The agreement provides development of the and right to acquire the parcel located at 955 C Street, which is basically the C Street Garage. What the project is will be to develop the parking garage with high-density apartments on top of the garage. In February 26th of 2018, the Sparks City Council and Redevelopment Agency approved an amendment to that agreement, which allows the city to approve and to convert the apartments to condominiums at some other point in time. The Sparks Redevelopment Agency is currently the owner of the C Street garage parcel, which is bound to the east by 9th Street and 10th Street to the west. The Sparks Redevelopment Agency is in the process of assembling the parcel for the project and has requested the City Council to consider vacating portions of the public right-of-way on the westerly side of 9th Street and the easterly side of 10th Street, as shown on the exhibit on the overhead. The order vacating right-of-way is attached to the agenda item. The legal description of the request has been reviewed by staff and has been found acceptable. Each property owner abutting the proposed abandonment has been properly notified. The extent of the proposed abandonment and the date of the public hearing were published in the Reno Gazette Journal. Reservation easements will be included in the order of vacating the right-of-way. Staff finds that the public will not be materially injured by the proposed abandonment and recommends approval. That is the end of my presentation.
Questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll open up the public comment period. Anybody in the public wishing to speak? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council for action. Mr. Abbott.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
Okay. I move to approve the request from the Sparks Redevelopment Agency to vacate portions of the public right-of-way on the westerly side of the 9th Street and easterly side at the 10th Street adjacent to 955 C Street, the C Street Garage, as outlined by staff.
Okay, we have a motion. Looking for a second, Ms. Bybee?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Thanks, John. Okay, planning and zoning public hearings and action items. There are none, so we'll move to comments. I'll open up the public comment period. Anybody in the audience wishing to speak at this time? Come on down, sir. Come on down to the table.
No, just one comment. For the record.
You have to come down. You have to come down.
For the record, my name is Ralph Thomas. I'm Charlene Thomas's father. And I want to make the comment, everyone here aware that April 10th is her birthday.
All right.
For the record.
That's right. Thank you, sir. Okay, any other comments? Okay, we'll bring it back to the council. Comments from the city council, city manager. Mr. Driscoll.
Thank you. If you'll indulge me, I'd like to have Chief Allen come down and just quickly discuss telecommunications worker recognition that we didn't get on the agenda. in the time frame we needed to for you to recognize it. But if you would just indulge him a few moments to just put on the record some comments, I'd appreciate that.
Come on down, Chief.
Good afternoon once again, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. At my fault and with Teresa Wiley's retirement and all the activities, at no fault of our wonderful city clerk, we missed the deadline for getting the proclamation for National Telecommunications Week on the agenda. This week is National Telecommunications Week, and in general, it is Dispatcher Week. As you guys are aware from the proclamations in the past, our dispatch center is a primary public safety answering point, and it receives all emergency landline and cell phone calls from the city of Sparks, and then dispatches for the Sparks Fire Department, Sparks Police Department, and transfer those medical calls to a secondary PSAP for medical emergencies. So in general, they are answering over 200,000 phone calls a year with 17 employees in that center, 24/7, 365, dispatching for the 88,000 police calls for service, 14,000 fire calls for service, and associated stuff. Coincidentally, dispatch is the presentation at the Citizens Academy tomorrow night, so you'll be hearing more in-depth details about the work that they do. But we could not get to where we need to get to as your public safety agencies without that incoming phone call and being dispatched by those hardworking and dedicated personnel that we have on that dispatch center. And I would be remiss if I didn't at least come down here in front of you and acknowledge the hard work they do and give them praise for their work year round. So I just thank you for this moment.
Can we get it on another agenda, or you figure it's too late for that?
To me, the week is this week, and if we get it on a later agenda, it's a little bit late. I'll stop by. If you do have time sometime this week during the day or at any time, they're there 24/7, pop in and a simple come in and stop by and hello, and this is who I am, and thank you for all you do. Goes a long way with any of our employees across the city, and it would do the same thing for the dispatchers.
Okay, good idea. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Dare.
First of all, happy birthday. I'd ask if our staff would look into, I know Reno recently just passed an ordinance that has to do with the panhandling on the corners, and I'm quite concerned to make sure that we are prepared if for some reason what they're doing over there will start making it to where we have different issues in our own city. I just want to make sure that's looked at and we can talk about and put on the agenda for next time we meet. I'd appreciate that.
Got it.
Okay. Mr. Abbott.
Yeah, I'm gonna go right off you, Chief Allen. I did a sit-along Friday night with dispatch. I thought I was great at multitasking. That's a whole nother job. And another quick little fun fact, it's 50 years this year for the first 911 call. It was in February. So at least that's what I saw in the news. So I believe it today, but it sounded good. So I just want to say thanks. And you guys have a great staff up there. It was really enjoyable to sit along and just see everything that went on up there. So thanks.
Any other comments? I'll say happy birthday, and I'm going to get you a puppy. I have just the
Was
one.
Donald alive 50 years ago? Were you? Well, I was close.
I saw it on Facebook. It was on my memories.
Okay, any other comments?
Ron and I were here.
Okay, seeing none, without objection, we are adjourned.
I was at least thought about.
I was at least thought about.